So the next thing we want to do is have our Scala instance. All right, so we are going to be installing Scala into our system and then building a simple project with Scala. All right, so going back into the code in here, so I'm using a Mac, but the installation process is the same, well, roughly the same for all of the Unix systems and Linux. But for something like Windows, you have to go through the specific documentation to get them installed on your system. So going back in here, I already have the documentation in here. So if you want to install Scala on your system, so the first thing you need to do, if you are using a Mac, you can use the SDK man or the Homebrew. So I already installed this with Brew install. I'm using Homebrew anyways. And for Windows, you have to either install the MSI or use the Chocolatey or Scoop. So the same way for Linux, Deb and RPM, you use this installation packages. And if you want to install the zip and maybe build from the sources from there, you can continue from that. So that's how you do it, and you can install the different versions separately. You can install them by clicking on the MSI or the TARS file or the zip file. Okay, so I already did that earlier. So if I did brew install SBT, you can see that I already did that. I'm not going to be doing that again. So you can also check your SBT version, so to see the version of the Scala that you're currently running. So I'm running 1.97. Okay, so now let's create our first Scala project. So the next thing we want to do is go into our jobs. So I'm going to create a new directory. I'm going to say make directory jobs, and I'll call it Scala. So I have a Scala directory in here. So I'm going to touch jobs Scala, and I'll say word count.scala. Okay, so I have my Scala job in here. But one of the bootstrapping process or getting your Scala project ready is to have your build.sbt file, okay, where you're going to be writing the dependencies and the properties of the project you are creating. So I'm going to have, again, instead of build that, I'm going to have build.sbt. Good. Now, the next thing we want to do is inside the build.sbt, we are going to start by having the dependencies. So I'm going to say the name of this project is going to be word count. Okay, that's basic stuff. The version is going to be version 0.1. The Scala version is the going to be 2. The one that I'll be using in the container is 2.1.8. Then the library dependencies, I'm going to do library dependencies plus equals, I'm going to have org.apache.spark. Then I'm going to be having Spark SQL, okay, and the version for that is 3.2.1. Good. So you can play around the dependencies and the versions, but I find this working for me, so I'm going to leave it at that. So this is the dependency. Let me just double check that everything is fine. Okay, good. So my build.sbt is fine, and I'm ready to build my project, but I haven't written anything in my word count project. So let's do that. Okay. So in my word count, I'm going to go into the word count. I'm going to write the code in here. I'm going to say apache.spark.sql.session. Spark session rather. I'm going to have my class. Well, some people say Scala is the Python Java version of Python. So I'm going to say dev main, okay, the args array of string, basically just like you have a main class of Java, but you are writing the Java in Python. Okay, so I'm going to have a value of my Spark just like I had in my word count job, something like this. I'm going to do the same in my Scala, and coming back in here, I'm going to say Spark session dot builder dot app name is going to be word count. Yeah, okay, and the master is going to be Spark, well, this is extra, but you don't have to dynamic specifically say this is the Spark master, but I'll do that. Get or create. Okay, just like I did in the word count job. Okay, so you can also do the same with the master in here, or you can just leave it at that, but I'll leave it like this. Then I'm going to have val sc equals to spark dot spark context. By the way, if you are new to Scala or you are looking to get some more information about Scala, you can check the link in the description and you can go to the course for more information. All right. So I have some in-depth tutorial on how to navigate the world of Scala and how to get started with Scala. So I have val and the text data and the sc.parallelize. Okay, parallelize. So I'm going to be saying list of hello world, hello spark, comma, hello docker, hello Scala, and of course, hello Yusuf. All right, hello world, Spark, Docker, Scala, and Yusuf. All right, so at the end of the day, I'm going to close that and go back into this. So I'm going to have my value of counts, which is going to be text data that I have in here. Okay, and I'm doing a flat map in there where I'm having a line of a line dot split. Okay, split on space, of course, just like we did before. Then aside that, I'll be doing a mapping dot map, and I'm mapping each word to word comma 1, and I'm doing a reduce by key. I'm going to be reducing by the first one plus the second one. Excellent. You can see the difference. There's a little difference between the way you write the Scala and Python, but they are kind of similar. Like I said, some people refer to Scala as the Java version of Python. Well, you can call it that or not. So yeah, going back into the code, we have my reduce by key. The same thing that I had in here is the same thing that I'm repeating in here, but in different syntax anyway. So I have my count.collect, count.collect. Then say for each, I'm going to be doing a print line. Then this is what this is going to be doing, just printing the words, word count directly. Okay. Then at the end of the day, I do spark.stop. Spark session builder app name, get or create, Spark context. Okay, and parallelize this, list that, flat map this, word that, reduce this, and then collect that. Excellent. So let's see if our Spark is ready to be rock and roll. So let's take this for a spin. All right. So how do you build a Spark, a Scala project? So the first thing you need to do is go to the terminal. In here, you can say, because you've already installed the SBT on your system, I'm just going to write SBT. Okay, I can say SBT compile, and this is going to create the compile version of the code into this. So I have my execution. So I'm having this, and you can see that is executing in batch mode, and the total time is this. And if you look into the directory in here, there's nothing yet. Okay, so I can say sbt.package. Now this is going to generate the jar equivalent, the jar file from this code for me that I can use to submit to my Spark cluster. So, and in here you can see, oh no, I'm compiling into the root directory. So that's wrong. I should be in the Scala directory. Okay, so I should say jobs, okay, Scala, and I'm going to do sbt compile again, and you should see this time around that in this compile directory is going to have some data in there. Okay, and so it's doing some installations and the rest there, and compilation rather. And at the end of the day, it's done. And you can see inside my Scala project, I have a project and I have a target. Lovely. So the next thing that I want to do is SBT package. So this is going to generate a jar file for me. All right, so it's done. And you can see in the target, I have Scala 2.12, which is the one that I'm using in here. Scala 2.12. You can see in here, I have my word count 21201. Okay, so I'm going to copy the path reference. So I'm going to just say copy from the root, and coming back in here, I'll just reduce this a little bit. And inside here, I'm going to say Scala job is going to be Spark submit operator. Excuse me. Spark submit operator. I'm going to have the task ID. It's going to be, let's say, Scala job. And then the connection ID is going to be Spark on. The application is going to be in the directory that I copied, this guy. Okay. Then I'm going to have a Java class. So it recognize the, sorry, I don't need the Java class. This is Scala. We've not reached the Java section there. Okay, so I'm going to have the application, and then the last thing that I'm going to be needing is the DAG. DAG equals to DAG. Good. So that is done. We just need to add this to our list. So we change this to a list, and it's going to be Python job, and then we have a Scala job, and we save that. So going back to the UI, I'm going to just put this just in here. You can see the link in the description too. So in the graph, my sparking flow, you can see that I have another guy in here, but for some reason it's not attaching that to it. So if I trigger this, we should have the latest, okay, been triggered there and added. And if I click on the first one, you can see that interesting. So let's see why. I have my Scala job in here, okay, and going back in here, I refresh this, and there's an error. And why is that? So if I click on this, yeah, okay, it's corrected now, but I don't know, for some reasons this keeps messing up. I think it could be, I don't know, maybe a bug or something. So you can see the spark in here, but there's a failure. So let's see why it's failed. So if I go in there, it says task is not able to run. Okay, it says all success, but there's something failing. All right, so let's see why it is failing. So going back in here, I have my Scala job. It is failing. So going back, I have Scala job and Spark con, and I'm having Scala 2.1201, and yeah. Interestingly, the job compiled successfully and it was submitted and ran successfully. But for some reasons initially, it wasn't running. Even though I didn't change anything, I just I did a refresh, but that's interesting. So it looks like probably it has not finished synchronization with the Docker instance, maybe that could be the reason why. But for some reasons, I don't know, I just did a refresh and it's working. So you might want to take note of that. I didn't change anything, and so suddenly, just after a refresh, the job is working fine. So yeah, so we go into the next step. So